let's make a trip down to Atwater and talk about the Waterloo Vikings a little bit and what they return and what they are bringing to the table in 2021.
Yeah, the Waterloo Vikings are a team that has a special place in my heart because I started really getting into the Waterloo program when I started doing the basketball season over there, and I really started learning more about the school culture and how everything has been over there. And I really love the fans and I love the community up there at Waterloo. They have great kids and they have a great community of support behind those kids, and you can't really say enough about them. In 2020, though, Waterloo ended the season 4-6. They were 0-6 in regular season. They did win 4 games after. So, I mean, really ended the season well. They averaged over 20 points a game of offense. They are returning 9 starters from that offense. And the guys that are going to be interesting to look at, I think Bobby Macon is going to be one of the running backs there. Mason Duncan, a wide receiver. Devin Curtis, another one of those. You got Austin Wise is going to be an offensive lineman that's going to be very fun to watch too, as he's an incredible blocker up front. You lose guys like Joe Thomas, not that one, but Joe Thomas, the quarterback for them. Joe Ward, a wide receiver, and Cody Stump, a running back for them. But yeah, those are the guys that you lose last year, but they're replacing Cody Stump with Bobby Macon, and Bobby Macon is going to be a guy I'm going to be interested to see what he can do this year, because I really think he's the type of guy. He has some great speed. He has some great vision ahead of him. He seems to find those open holes in the line and is able to take advantage of them. And when he gets to the outside of the run too, he's able to just have enough speed to beat those edges and beat those defensive backs or linebackers that try to come up and get him off of the edge. So I want to see what he can do with a full season under his belt, not having to share snaps with Cody Stump. I want to see what Macon can do. I believe he had 58 carries last year. Should be looking for a lot more this year on that Waterloo offense.
Yeah, and it's an offense that just wants to see more production. I don't think they care who it comes from. They just want to see more points go up on that scoreboard a little bit, take some pressure off a young defense that goes up against a lot of big offenses this year on their schedule. So I think they just want a little bit more production out of their offensive squad.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really the point where you got to look at if you're Waterloo and say that's where we need to improve on, because defensively, they're a solid football team. Yeah, of course, there's improvements to be made, but definitely solid and competed with a lot of teams defensively last year. It's just being able to get that extra score or finish that touchdown, turn those field goals into touchdowns and those punts into field goals, and just ending up with more points on the board than you did last year.
Backing your defense up when they make a big stop and continuing that momentum is also big, because then it gives the defense a reason to go back out there and put the same effort on that they did last drive. If they go and they make a big stop or they force a fumble and then the offense comes and they go 3 and out, it kind of takes those sails, not just out of the offense, but it kind of takes the sails out of the defense too, because they feel like we just made this big play for our team and it didn't really do anything.
Yeah, and I mean, the defense, though, of this team is gonna be good, and I think even better than last year. So when you have this defense that's going to be able to give you these stops, you need to give them just a little bit more support. You don't need to be blowing it out of the water. We're not saying Waterloo needs to be a Lowville or a Springfield on offense.
Blow it out of the water.
Yeah, but as long as Waterloo is scoring a little bit more efficiently this year, I think they're going to be a team that's going to get even more than 4 wins this year, and I think you're going to see more of a 6-win team of Waterloo. I think they have the potential to have a winning season if they can just get those offensive drives to end in touchdowns and field goals a little bit more.
Highlight that defense and some of the players that make it one of the successful units in the area.
Yeah, and like this defense is a team that allowed just over 27 per game, but they're returning 9 of their starters. A couple of the Mason Duncan plays both ways on defense. So does Austin Wise, I believe. But I mean, other guys, Justin Fox, Spencer Shepard, and then a Mason Hacken are some great linebackers for them as well. Both Justin Fox and Spencer Shepard go up front. Mason Hacken, a linebacker, as well as Mason Duncan and Bobby Macon. So you got 3 very good linebackers, some good guys up front, some solid defensive backs as well. This is a team, too, that is going to have another year of experience under their belt. Not very many seniors on the team overall. And it's a team that's going to be younger, but, I mean, is going to be very very excited, I think, going into the season for everything they did defensively last season. They have a lot to hang their hat on and be proud of.
Yeah, I think so too. And when you have a season like that, of course, you got to find ways to motivate your kids to keep doing what they're doing, even though the results overall, the team results, didn't really come to fruition. Their defense has to understand that they did their job last year.
Yeah, they absolutely did. And I mean, some of the guys that are two-way players on offense and defense can tell you that the defense was one of the strong suits for Waterloo, and they were able to stay competitive in a lot of those games, and they were able to keep the offense close. It's just being able to take that next step. So instead of you're losing by a touchdown or a field goal, you're winning by that. It's just being able to get that last score and being able to have that last score by the end of the day.
Let's talk about their schedule, who they have sitting in front of them and in the way of a successful season.
Yeah, looking at Waterloo's schedule this year, I mean, you open up a non-conference play at Newton Falls, you go to at Strasburg Franklin, and then home versus Malvern to start the non-conference games. And I mean, a couple of interesting matchups there. At Newton Falls is going to be interesting, and I think also home versus Malvern September 3rd is going to be interesting non-conference.
Yeah, it's interesting too because I don't know anything about Strasburg Franklin, so I can't even preview that game. We're gonna have to do our homework when we do a week 2 show about Strasburg Franklin and try to see what that matchup entails for Waterloo, because it's a mystery, and it might be a mystery right now. I mean, of course, when they're preparing, it won't be, but right now it might be a kind of a mystery to the coaching staff too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, going into this season too for Waterloo, I mean, you open up with Newton Falls. You got the victory against them last year in your last game of the season, so you open up with them right off the gate. So I mean, you're riding high off the victory off of them. You meet them right off the bat again.
We're playing
so,
Newton Falls again.
Yeah. So I mean, they're looking at these first 3 games, and I think Waterloo scheduled these first 3 games thinking that they have a very realistic possibility of coming out 3-0.
That would be big heading into their tough conference schedule. Talk about their conference slate and how it lines up.
Starts out home versus Sebring, goes to September 17th at Western Reserve, September 24th home versus Lowville, October 1st at Springfield, October 8th at Jackson Milton, October 15th home versus McDonald, and October 22nd at Mineral Ridge. And I mean, looking at that schedule and where Waterloo looks at, I mean, we talked about that Sebring game being important too. I'm looking at really, if you want me to say the key games in this schedule, I'm looking at those first 4 weeks, honestly. I'm bunching them all. I'm cheating a little bit. I'm circling those first 4 weeks. And I'm telling you, whatever happens in those first 4 weeks is going to tell you what Waterloo does for the rest of the season, if they make the playoffs or not. Because I think those are the first 4 weeks where you're coming in, you have a team that's more experienced now. Everyone's even. Everyone's 0-0. So you're all coming in with the same attitude. Nobody has a win or loss on their record. And you're coming into 4 games that are going to be very competitive, but 4 games that are very winnable too for Waterloo. And I think these are 4 matchups where Waterloo, if they're coming out looking strong, 3-1 record, or maybe even a 4-0 record, you're looking at a very solid chance that Waterloo makes the playoffs then.
Yeah, and just like Jackson Milton, I think the first 5 games, the first half of their schedule, going to be crucial because that back half is very tough, and you do not want to be digging yourself out of a hole in that back half of their schedule.
No, absolutely not. I mean, we already saw how it ends. I mean, last 4 games then are Springfield, Jackson Milton, McDonald, Mineral Ridge. And those are the 4 teams we're expecting to be atop of the Scarlet Tier division. So it's all about how you do in the front half of the schedule, because you know the back half, the work is cut out for you. But in their favor, in Waterloo's favor, they'll know what needs to be done facing the hard teams then, the tougher teams in this division.
I mean, if you're 4-1 after 5, then you look at that second half and think, well, with 16 teams, I might only have to win one more game to get into a playoff spot. 5 and 5 in that division might just get you into a 16 seed.
Yeah, and I mean, after Sebring, we go Western Reserve, and then goes Lowville, Springfield, Jacksonville, McDonald, Mineral Ridge. So you face a bunch of very good offensive teams to test this defense. But I mean, if you're hanging your hat on the coattails of the defense that you had last year, and you're hanging your hat on the coattails that it's going to be improved, and be a huge improvement from what it was last year, an already good defense, you might be able to win a few of those games on the defense solely alone.
That would be a big step forward for the program if they were able to earn themselves a playoff spot with 5 wins, maybe 6.
Yeah, and I mean it would be great for the Waterloo program and those Waterloo fans, because we know how much they love their sports and they love their kids, and that community is so involved with their kids in the sports up there. It would be huge if that Waterloo football program can make their playoff appearance this year.
I think one of the reasons why they're so strong community wise, we talked about with Newton Falls, they're kind of alone up there. They're the only show in town. There's no one that's really touching their community. So they get to go really full force with their football, with their entire sports department. You never go to a quiet Waterloo game. That's one of the things that we've learned really quick. Even in a 15% capacity crowd of basketball, they made noise, and they made a lot of noise. You know it. You called games there. I called games there. Waterloo gets loud really quick.
Yeah, and especially with the new bleachers that are going up for the football stadium, I'm so excited that Waterloo's getting all these features and renovations done. It's about time that they get this, because they've deserved it for a long time. That field and the school and those kids, they've deserved to have the bright lights and big bleachers of crowds watching them too, because that's what that school does deserve. And yeah, watching the basketball games, I never got the chance to see a football game up there, but I have seen plenty of both boys and girls basketball games at different times of the day. And I tell you what, whether it's an 11 o'clock start for a girls basketball game, or it was a 7 p.m. Friday night boys basketball game, there was a lot of Waterloo fans in the stands, and the stands will literally shake when exciting things happen. And it was definitely fun experience being in Waterloo for basketball last year.
Didn't you do a day where there was like 3 there was like girls games in the morning, and then there were boys game at night?
I believe so. Yeah.
I mean,
they get loud too, and they're a great YSN school, and they really do appreciate everything that we do, and we love having them too. And I mean, we talk about them being the only show in town. I'm glad that I'm within at least driving distance. I seem to be the only one that's out there, but don't worry, because their voices were definitely heard, and I made sure I preached the Waterloo name to everyone on YSN and on Power Hour for months.